Hey everybody, me Foxy D. And again, I'm going to be referring heavily to some notes. I'm a little all over the place, but tell you what, I was going to talk about mistakes that we make during a mobbing. And before I talk about the mistakes, I want you to be clear on certain things, particularly the landscape of a mobbing, all right? Just for you to understand the spiritual components in place. Now, at the risk of sounding and having certain people disengage, because it's going to sound a little out there, this is some truth I'm going to inject. Okay? And not all of you will be receptive to it. And I guess it's not meant for all of you. So here we go. I've received a couple of emails that were very interesting. People talking about things that were very esoteric in nature. And the only reason that I don't want to go in that particular direction is I was trying to be open to everybody, but I'll touch on the esoteric. Okay, here we go. Before we get to mistakes made during a mobbing, I'm going to define again that a mobbing is an attack on your spirit, soul, and essence. These components of self do exist, whether you know it logically or not, whether you want to admit to it or not, and sometimes feel it, and it goes in and out, and you're not quite sure, whether you're like I was, who was completely blocked to all of this, irrespective to the fact that my family tradition is interesting. My background is interesting. And in terms of esotericism, it's part of my culture. But I divorced myself from that. I'm a second-generation immigrant. We tried to leave all of that behind. But oftentimes certain things would be employed during certain situations to help us through. And for whatever reason that they worked, I knew it logically, all right? But I kind of dismissed it because it didn't make sense on an intellectual level. Anyhow, I'll hone it back in now. All right, so these components of self, spirit, soul, and essence do exist, whether you know it or not, admit to it or not. It's the core of vibration and energy, which is the core of life. Okay. So it's going to be a bit of a spiritual talk in terms of, like I said, the whole landscape of mobbing. Okay. So we're going to go on to number 2, which is how our brains work. Our frontal lobe functioning, which distinguishes us from other animals, gives us the erroneous idea that we are superior beings because we are capable of higher thought, which is a truth, capable of dominating other animals, which is a truth, capable of dominating and manipulating our environments, manipulating situations, etc. So, although there is truth in terms of how we can use these the frontal lobes in terms of higher thought, we can do all of these things. So there's truth in terms of how our brains function and how they function differently than other animals, how we have used our frontal lobes to dominate animals and manipulate our environments. We also use them to manipulate each other. And collectively, we have developed an arrogance in terms of seeing ourselves as superior not only to other animals, but also to one another. Do a little test if you don't believe or buy what I'm saying. Check yourself. Next time you pass a homeless person on the street, think about how you think about that person. Check yourself. That's the best test of all. And it doesn't matter if you give them something, don't give them something. I'm not talking about that whole, I have a charitable soul. It's beyond that. I'm asking you to check yourself. Think about how you think about that person. If you see them as an equal, or perhaps not. Okay? And it's not to be ashamed of yourself, it's to check yourself. See where you're at. Next point, I'm going to digress here. So, animals versus humans have none of the prejudices that most of us do in some form or another. So where am I going with all of this? Well, in the West, we have this erroneous mainstream idea that we're just body-mind. Okay, I kind of covered that in a previous video. So mind being relegated to frontal lobe functioning. We have these great intellectual capacities, space exploration, all kinds of technological advancements. Wow, Okay, that's the mind, right? And we're bodies, so take care of ourselves, etc., etc. We kind of neglect that spirit and soul exist. We pretend that they don't. What we do in the West that is extremely erroneous, I'll tell you a few things. Aura is some hippy-dippy invention, which is not true. Auras are energy. The colors correspond to what is within us, our level of consciousness, quite often. So this energy is visible to some of us. That depends often on our own centeredness. All right. We also conclude that energy and vibration is some weird hippie construct. So we've relegated it to kind of non-existence, or if you do believe in that, how can you possibly believe in something that you can't touch, see, right? And I dare I say feel, because some of us do feel this. So they've kind of put it in the hippie kind of garbage can, if you will. So what happens is it becomes less appealing to most people to explore. So whereby the whole idea of aura and energy is actually a part of our animals. You can test this. Maybe you won't see aura, and that's okay if you don't, okay? But understand some people do. So the next time, how about this? Because it's energy. The next time you feel someone staring at you and you catch them, think about how you knew they were staring at you in the first place. Okay? So this is a part of the intuitive process. And for those of you who don't believe in intuition, I often refer to it as instinct. I often do that. But what is meant by it is intuition. It's energy as well. And remember, when we communicate with each other, and this is even on, and you could look at all kinds of documentation on communication and language, they say that 80%, I mean, I'm just going to give the figure, I could be off by 10 percentage points, God knows, all right? So they say that most of communication, I'll say 80%, is nonverbal. So you could either say, well, we're just scanning our environments, we're just these hyper-intelligent beings, and we're just noticing micro-expressions. Yeah, that's a part of it, okay? But there's an energy involved to all of that. In the West, we also say that chakras don't really exist. I'll tell you that they do, all right? If you've ever been in a semi-hypnotic state or had any kind of Reiki performed, if you were that open to go for it, and you saw colors, check and see the corresponding chakras to your colors, and you may be surprised. See, those colors often, say during a Reiki session, when you start to see color, and people are like, oh my God, I saw color. What's wrong with me? Nothing is wrong with you. This is your energy, okay? And the Reiki practitioner and your own openness, or even lack thereof, your level of consciousness, if you will. Okay, when you have a certain area that's in deficit, you will start to see those colors. You don't have to believe me. I dare you to give it a shot. Okay. Acupuncture. Acupuncture also, it's like, oh my God, going for acupuncture. Well, I had a girlfriend who had gone for acupuncture who was so Canadian, if you will. Okay, like just a very typical Canadian person, no esoteric roots, didn't believe in any of that stuff. And she freaked out because she said, I started crying. I was bawling my eyes out. And I nodded and I'm like, yeah, She's like, I don't understand. Well, when you're starting again, it's playing with energies. It's part of who we are as human beings. And all of our parts are interrelated. We're not just body, mind, okay? So any kind of practices also that incorporate our spirits and souls and our essences, like yoga, kung fu, mindfulness, Reiki, are considered hokey, hippie, and not real. Okay. Now, Western society, the whole body-mind idea at the exclusion of our essences divorces us from our very essence. Church and religion, particularly, and I'll speak of Christianity, are often used as methods to divide us. Okay, and why am I speaking about Christianity? I could be speaking about any other kind of religion, but, I'm not an expert in this stuff. But I do know a lot about Christianity. And here we go. And I'll tell you, what happens is it's not like I'm going to look at any of the holy books and say that, throw them out the window or anything of the sort. I think that you should read them. See, but oftentimes in church, and I've been to a lot of different kind of Christian denominations, different churches, okay? I seriously, nobody really reads the Bible. So go back, look at the seminal works, and start to acknowledge, understand, interpret, and see what it says in there. The way we've applied Christianity, what happens is we're often only superficially acknowledging our own sins, if you will. Having them washed away by paying a tithe to the church, attending on Sundays, and shaking hands with the person next to us that we were just criticizing for their ugly hairdos and bad breath. Okay? So, or you go there and, the body and blood of Christ is fed to you. You don't think twice about it. Maybe confession, maybe no, but you go on Sunday and everything is washed away. And you could start over on your negative path either while you're still in church, okay, or the following day, and just go and get your sins washed away the following Sunday. It's ridiculous. Doesn't make any sense, does it? Okay. So, schools, what happens? Schools in the West, we learn for testing purposes. There's no real inquiry, no examination of the what is. We have these textbooks that are assigned to us. A lot of information is missing. There's certain things that are never spoken about. Like, say, for instance, we have a colonial history. We never really explore why, how. We never go deeply into it. All right. So we get our books. Maybe we have a couple of pages on the Underground Railroad, a couple of pages on, how we stole land from the native people here. And we won't say that we stole the land. It's just an indoctrination. And I have to agree with Alan Watts that children are free until they're about 4 or 5 years old. And then the indoctrination begins. Now, what does all of this mean? Why am I talking like this? Well, if you didn't buy into the Western ideas and notions that I've just spoken about, okay, and yes, you feel that there's this energy that does exist and you acknowledge it, whether consciously or not, okay, and you haven't been emotionally and spiritually castrated by this society, you will have difficulty fitting into this society. If you vibe high, in other words, those people with low vibes, those who have been castrated, who may be initially very attracted to you, will hunt you over time. It's a deep-seated spiritual jealousy. Now, whether you want to call it demonology, demons, whether you want to refer to it as reptilian animals or people, you can refer to it and label it George if you want. It's not about the label, it's about understanding. To me, anyways. This is, and again, it's my video. This is what I'm presenting to you. So I wanted to give you a bit of a lay of the land before the next video, which is going to talk about the mistakes that we often make when we are being mobbed. Okay, and the reason I'm going to talk about that is so you can avoid maybe some of the mistakes that I made. Or you could be just more aware of what's going on, and you can be more tactical in terms of your responses. That's it for now. I wish you a lovely day. Namaste. All right? And I love you all. I respect you. And that's that. So wishing you a good one. Comment, agree, disagree. I hope you subscribe. Please share any of the videos that you find interesting. And there you go. So again, like, dislike, please comment. I really do encourage that. And I'd love to hear what your viewpoints are. Like I said, it's not about me. I'm just presenting my story. Okay? I'm presenting it because I think I have, yeah, man, that's just what consciousness is about. We got to share, right? We got to share, build, reconsider these mainstream narratives. And maybe sometimes a good old bottom-up approach is what's needed to help others wake up a little bit, maybe. Get more in touch with themselves and their course. Foxy D, signing off. Namaste.